Today, I'm exposing what many are calling Airbnb's biggest crisis ever. As an Airbnb owner myself, I'm going to reveal what the platforms and real estate gurus don't want you to know. While most owners are struggling to survive the short-term rental game, I'm going to pull back the covers and show you what I go through as a short-term rental owner and how I'm still winning despite everything you're going to see today. Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the housing nerd. I've been a realtor and investor in Central Ohio for the last 7 years, and I do this for a living. I'm not just some guy on YouTube. This is what I do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let's start with the brutal reality. The Airbnb dream is crumbling, and it's crumbling right before our eyes. What the real estate gurus won't tell you is that Airbnb profits have plummeted nearly 40% in cities like Phoenix, Austin, and Myrtle Beach in just 1 year. In Palm Beach County, Florida, for instance, Airbnb profits are substantially lower than they were just a couple years ago. And many other top markets are seeing a serious decline in short-term rental profits. Many financial experts are warning that the Airbnb effect that has propped up so many different housing markets throughout the US is quickly disappearing. One of the major problems is simple: oversaturation. Cities like New York, Austin, and even international cities like Paris and London have seen the number of Airbnb listings absolutely explode as more people decided to jump on the easy money bandwagon. So what does all this oversaturation mean? Well, it means that hosts are becoming more and more desperate to pull in guests. And if you bought at the top of the market as a host and an Airbnb owner, you need that top dollar in order to make the numbers work. I mean, let's face it, how many people purchased a house at the top of the market thinking they could get rich Airbnb in the place, only to find out that, well, they're not really going to make that work when they've got a host of other competitors that are willing to rent their place, maybe for less money, and they have a mortgage payment that's probably sky high, along with insane property taxes. And after they outfit the place, factor in renovations and maintenance, it becomes unattainable, especially because there's a lot more competition. In some popular vacation spots, occupancy for short-term rentals has dropped over 50%. Why? Worldwide, right now, there's over 7.7 million Airbnb listings. 7.7 million. To make matters worse, communities that have been fighting against Airbnbs are now seeing those bans actually go into place. And those bans can really pop up anywhere. If you're a host, you could get a piece of mail one day or a phone call or an email saying, hey, we're changing our regulations. We're banning short-term rentals. You're gonna have to figure something out, Mr. Host. For instance, in New York City, listings of short-term rentals plummeted over 80% once the ban that they put in place took effect, dropping from 22,000 listings to just 3,200 in 1 year. Many studies have confirmed what a lot of residents have been saying already, that 1, 2, 3 night stays in an Airbnb, those type of properties have certainly increased the level of noise, the traffic, the crime, and just, increase the problems and decrease the overall living quality of. But comment below, tell me what you think about Airbnbs. Do you live near an Airbnb? Do you own one? Have you stayed in one? What are your general thoughts about the neighborhood quality once an Airbnb goes in? I'd like to know. So not only do you have the oversaturation of properties and the Airbnb bans that are going into effect that are wreaking havoc on Airbnb landlords, but you also have the fact of increased cost. You've got a massive amount of costs that have gone up for these hosts. And again, speaking from personal experience owning an Airbnb, I can tell you these costs are real. Unfortunately, a lot of people bought these Airbnb properties in destinations that they wanted to live in. So in other words, they would go out and buy a property in Austin, Texas, or Phoenix, or Myrtle Beach, or Gatlinburg, or Pigeon Forge, which is out here in the East. And they probably visit that place with their kids and think, we should buy an Airbnb here. This would be fantastic. But they really don't look at it from a business side. They look at it more from like a fun side. It's really just playing around. It's like a hobby. It's not a real business. That's a massive mistake. You've got to treat this like a business. not a hobby, because it is a business. It's not a hobby. And if you really want to make money at it, there are ways to do it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I suppose, if you're waiting on an Airbnb crash in order to buy a home, you're going to see more and more owners being forced to sell their properties because they didn't buy right, they didn't run it right, and they really didn't have any strategy going in. I would really call that more the Instagram Airbnb effect, where someone wanted to buy it, to put it on Facebook to promote how awesome they are so all their friends are jealous, but they didn't stop and think about the long-term plan of the property. And that's a crucial error that a lot of people, I think, are making. Then you add in the fact that mortgage rates have skyrocketed. A lot of these buyers bought properties at, at maybe lower interest rates, but they get into trouble. They got to access some equities. They access the equity at a much higher rate. All of a sudden they got to sell. Investors who bought at the peak of the high mortgage rates are especially vulnerable to these market changes and these increased costs. And that results in forced selling. It's no surprise that the CEO of Reventure Consulting, Nick Gurley, especially newbie investors that purchased over the last 1 or 2 years, are probably in serious trouble. A lot of industry experts are warning that Airbnb propping up the housing market, if that pillar collapses, it could bring down a lot of other aspects of the housing market. You think an Airbnb, any type of Airbnb collapse would actually crash the overall housing market? I'd like to know. Comment below. So we probably will see a wave of distressed selling from these Airbnb owners as they realize there's really no way out except to sell their property. And in many cases, they may have to sell it fast and at a discount. Now I'm in a town called Mount Vernon, Ohio. It's a little town about 50 minutes from Columbus. And it's a small town, maybe only 40,000 people live here. But I kind of got into this town because I was driving through it when I started investing in real estate and noticed just how small, quaint, and, quiet the town was. And also being only 50 minutes from Columbus, I thought it could be a good spot to invest in. I like small towns. I like to invest in small towns. Less regulations, less things to deal with, less crime usually. They're just easier. And the people are usually nice too. So with all these challenges, all these market changes, the communities completely hating Airbnb owners, skyrocketing costs, crazy mortgage rates, an uncertain economy, how can anybody win in the short-term rental business? Well, the truth is, most probably won't win in this business and most probably will fail. Unlike any small business, the days of buying a property, putting some furniture in it, slapping it on the market and collecting cash, those days are long gone. In fact, I've looked at YouTube for a while now about short-term rentals, and many Airbnb gurus are no longer Airbnb gurus. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. So here is my Airbnb building. Now I know, nothing special. In fact, the outside definitely needs some work. But this building behind me, I bought using some of the techniques that I talk about on my channel. I bought it off market. I rescued it from ruin. I mean, the roof was falling in. The owner decided that, it was too much work. They wanted to get rid of it. And so I happened to connect with them and was able to purchase this building. Despite this perfect storm that I've been talking about of ruination of Airbnb, and despite a lot of people wishing, wanting, and hoping for every Airbnb owner to go bankrupt and them go into financial ruin, I'm going to show you and explain how I'm actually winning in this game. We're going to take a look at this unit right now. Tell me what you think. So this is one of my units. I've got 4 of them in the building, and I rent them as short-term rental units. I've been walking for a little while, so I'm going to take a break, sit down for a second. I'm going to share some of the techniques I'm using in order to be successful with these short-term rentals. Then I'm going to take you and show you some of the upgrades I've done that have cost me money. And there are things that a lot of other owners are probably dealing with and struggling to survive because they have to deal with these problems. So that'll be in a minute. So I didn't buy this building with the intention to Airbnb it. That wasn't my intention. I stumbled upon a resource called furnishfinder.com. And Furnish Finder is a site that helps nurses and traveling professionals find furnished apartments for long-term stays, not short-term stays. When I saw that, a light bulb went off in my head and I thought, wait a minute. If everybody is trying to compete on Airbnb and rent their place for 1, 2, 3 days at a time, maybe there's an opportunity for me to rent something for longer. When I looked at the numbers for a short-term rental, like 1, 2, 3 nights at a time, I found that overall the numbers did not work. I would have to charge $200, $300 a night to make that work. And I knew given the fact that this is a small unit and I'm in a small town, there's no way I could get that money. So I thought there's no point to do Airbnb. But when I found the long-term furnished rental option, I ran the numbers and they looked really good. And so that's my strategy with this building. So my first tip, and one of the ways I'm successful, is I rent for 28 days or more only. I don't rent for 1, 2, 3 nights. So I'm not turning this place over constantly, and that reduces my turnover costs substantially. It also helps keep the riffraff out, right? Because not a lot of people are going to rent a place for 28 days in the little town of Mount Vernon, Ohio, in order to, party there and throw a big rager. It's not going to happen. So I knew that and was like, you know what? That may be the opportunity for me. Basically, the guests I found stay 3 times longer or 5 times longer or 10 times longer, and they cause 95% fewer problems. I've also kept my costs lower in the renovation by not upgrading the unit with needless frills. My target market are traveling professionals, and even students, professors, nurses. I've had some construction folks in here that are working on the new Intel facility. I would suspect a lot of short-term hosts kind of overlook this market, and they're thinking about the $300 per night. My units are anywhere from $40 to $45 a night. And if you look at a map and compare my unit to any other units in the area, mine are way underpriced. And people probably look at that and go, how is that unit so cheap? Well, it's cheap nightly because I only allow 28 days or more. I don't allow 1, 2, 3 nights. Let me show you the rest of this unit, and then I'll explain more about some of the techniques I use. So you see the living room is nothing amazing, right? It's just a living room. I've got some basic furniture in here. I've got nice lighting. I've got a big TV. You gotta have a big TV, right? You gotta have that. I mean, this is an old building, so it doesn't have central air. In fact, I had to buy these units that are floor air conditioners, but they work really well. And then it has radiant heat, by the way. That's one of the big costs that I had to incur this year. And I'll show you that in the basement in a minute. Nurses work at night, and a lot of times they want to sleep during the day, so I've got blackout curtains to make the place really dark. That place was built in 1940, so kind of an older looking sink, but kind of kitschy. Little tiny stove. It's got a bedroom, right? With a little TV, some natural light. It's got plenty of storage. Here's my bathroom. Nothing insane, right? Look at the tile. I've got to upgrade this tile. Maybe, I don't know, paint it or something, but really no frills, right? It's basic, clean, comfortable. It works, and it's private. Got electronic locks on it. By the way, electronic locks, big mistake if you're a landlord. They are a pain in the rear, constantly run out of batteries. It's unbelievable. But yeah, so this is the unit. Nothing extraordinary. I got a lot of these products, probably you can guess, from the internet, from sites like Wayfair, Amazon, and then bought some stuff from local shops in the area that, are kind of secondhand shops for furniture. But look at this cabinet here. It's a little crystal handle, right? But this cabinet was a built-in that was here probably in 1940, I'm guessing. And I left some of that stuff in. I mean, look at these cabinets. These cabinets are metal cabinets. When's the last time you saw a metal cabinet, right? But yeah, it's just a cute little apartment. The place rents for anywhere from $1,200 to $1,300 a month, all said, once you calculate, all the Airbnb stuff involved. So Airbnb does take a portion of that money, but to me, it's worth it. Airbnb has been great to deal with. I haven't had any issues with them. They've stood behind me as a host, and they've also stood behind tenants. I had a tenant one time come in here and say, after being here for like an hour, they were like, this place is too small. It's not what I thought it was. I want a refund, Jason. And Airbnb helped me out, and I gave the tenant a refund, and they left. No problem. If they're not happy, you got to take care of the customer. I think one of the other things that makes me successful is I take care of customers. I take care of tenants. It's the tenant first, me second. I think if you have that attitude, it helps a lot. But I mean, we're only like a block or so from town, and it's super quiet in here. Let me take you down in the basement. I'm going to show you some of the upgrades I did to the building. Again, I renovated all these units. There's 4 units in the building. I renovated all of them. I had to do that because they were in bad shape. I had to put money into the cosmetics of the units to make them nice and functional. But as you can see, I've kind of neglected the outside a little bit, or haven't really upgraded it. And most of the money I've spent on the building are like the intangibles. So the roof, I put a brand new roof on it. I put some new windows in, and I put some work into the basement. I'll show you that now. And these units are cool because they have a front and a back entrance. And then here's the basement. One of the things I liked about this building when I first looked at it was the basement's huge. And it's in really good shape, especially for a building built in 1940, right? So I brought in and had washer and dryers put in for the tenants, so any tenant can use those free of charge, no problem. And here is where the big bucks are spent, folks. Check this out. So all these electrical panels, these were all fuse panels with the screw-in fuses, right? From like 1940, they had screw-in fuses and they needed upgraded. So I've slowly upgraded them, but did a major upgrade on the panels and the line. I'll show you that in a minute outside going up. All in, that was 25,000 bucks. And so another cost that I had to incur was fixing the boiler system. This building has a boiler system. Not many places in Ohio do, but I had to spend some time, money, energy, and replace this thing, which is a pump, a circulation pump. That's what I learned. I actually replaced this myself. But the pump was like 700 bucks by itself, plus my time to install it. And that's the other thing a lot of hosts and landlords miss, is they will think that if they manage a property themselves, that they are saving money. It may seem that way, that you're saving some money, but I can tell you that you have to calculate your time in. Your time is not free. So when you calculate that in, are you saving money? Sometimes not. But I spent a lot of money also on the lights, because I wanted really bright lights in the basement. I wanted lights in all the hallways, the shared areas, and the exteriors. This place looks like Times Square at night. There's lights everywhere. So here's what I'm talking about with these electrical panels. I had to upgrade all these, had to get all new panels, and I had to get new service lines that go up to the actual power. I mean, that doesn't really add any dollars to your property. Like, you're not going to charge more because you have electric. So those are all costs that just go into owning a property, and even obviously an Airbnb. And people miss that all the time, I think. This is my next project here, the garage. So I've slowly upgraded the garage. I actually just put in that lighting I talked about. It's more of a carport right now because it's not enclosed. I've installed the electric. Now I'm going to have garage doors installed. So I'm going to have a garage door here, 2 doors here for the guests so they can park and have their cars completely enclosed. And I will charge more for that. You can better believe it, as I should, right? Because it cost me, 15 grand or something, right? I'm right in town, as you can see, like I'm right here. And this is downtown Mount Vernon right there. Let's think about some results now. Am I profitable? Well, each one of these units, like I said, rents for anywhere from $1,200 to $1,300 a month approximately. I've got a great mortgage rate on the property because I used seller financing. And so that helped a lot when I bought it. I do have an equity line of credit from another property on the building, so you have to calculate that. So all in, about $750 a month in my mortgage payment. But let's talk about some other costs that I have. So I've got costs like utilities, right? I pay all the utilities in the building. I pay all the water, I pay the gas bill, I pay the electric, and I pay the internet, because you have internet if you're going to host Airbnb. See, stuff like that people don't think about. But internet's not cheap. You all know that, $75, $100 a month. So I've got all those costs. So utility wise, I'm probably into it for maybe $500, $600 a month when you calculate all the utilities. Then you got property taxes and insurance, which are about roughly $500 a month. And then if I throw on a couple $100 a month for maintenance, if I just plan that and say, hey, every month I need to set aside a few $100s for maintenance, I'm approximately $2,000, $2,100 in cost every month. I'm making or generating about $4,800 a month in gross revenue. So you subtract that and you get what, $2,500 conservatively dollars every month that I'm cash flowing, right? So the cash flow is really good. It's probably one of the more profitable properties I have. And remember, I use debt to fix things, major things like the electric, right? I use debt for that. For the renovating these units, I use debt. I didn't use cash to do that. And so that debt payment I'm making is factored into me fixing everything and doing everything. Now, I have some big upgrades coming, like that garage door, right? I'm going to do some stuff to the concrete outside. That's kind of janky. And all that is probably I'm going to have to take out more debt to do it. I don't use the cash flow for that. And I think the big miss people have with Airbnb is they think party time, they think destination, they think fun, they think, I don't know what they think, honestly. But when I think of it, I think utilitarian. I think, how can I help the community to make this a better place to live? I'm giving working professionals a place to live that they wouldn't have normally. But I just think I'm doing the community a service here. I'm not a vampire. I'm not a shyster. I'm not a huckster. I'm not a charlatan with this. This is like real life investing. This is what it is. I mean, people have these ideas of, as far as real estate investing, but this is like real life real estate investing, folks. Ground level 101. It's not pretend. I really wish folks like Travis at Real Estate Mindset, Melody Wright, Nick at Reventure Consulting, the list goes on. I wish some of those folks would take the time to understand what a mom and pop investor does and how they can help the community versus that they're just pariahs. Because the conditions of this place when I bought it were not favorable to tenants. I mean, they weren't, and the owner would have admitted that. That's why they sold the building to me. So without me, who would fix this up? Santa Claus? The elves? You know, the boogeyman? The Ohio grassman? Who would do it? Now, if you want to learn more about the housing market, subscribe to Housing Nerd. I've got a ton of those videos. In fact, you should check out this one right here, up here somewhere.